My mother-in-law has already given $50K to a romance scam, and we just found out she tried to give another $178K recently. My mother-in-law lives in Laos, a developing country in Asia. I was born there too but left when I was 10 months old. My mother-in-law had fallen victim to romance scams in the past, but only lost maybe $2,000 to $5,000. We knew she had, in the past 6 months, fallen for another romance scam but didn't think it was serious. My wife has, over the past 4 years, completely renovated her mother's house, new backyard, new additions to the house, and even left her still relatively new car for her mother. My wife also sends her mom about $700 a month for expenses, the same amount she sends to her father, and he says it's more than enough. My mother-in-law is not cash rich but has access to properties. We would then hear things like how my mother-in-law is very frugal and lives like a destitute person. She would constantly be asking my wife for advances on her allowance. Then we would hear from others that she told people we have never sent her any money at all, not even $1, in an attempt to convince them to lend her money. Then we started getting calls from village elders and family members that she is trying to pawn properties for loans, some successfully. She has no intention of paying these loans. For the papers we could get, they take the property after 6 months of missed payments. My mother-in-law thinks she will be living in the United States by the time the loans are due, and that her great lover will pay them off. She's even been able to pawn things that aren't in her name. She has pawned, in the past month, jewelry, $10,000, a 4-acre plot, $12,000, real value $50,000, scooters, $1,000, a rental advance from a business property she owns 1/6 of, $20,000, and my wife's car, $3,000, real value $15,000. The roughly $50,000 she received from the loans has already been given to the scammers. She has also attempted to sell, but was stopped by officials, another 4-acre plot, $18,000, real value $100,000, her own house in the capital, right in the central business district, $100,000, real value $500,000, and her 1/6 share of the family business property, $50,000, real value $250,000. My wife's family is not used to confrontations. I think it's actually a cultural thing. So despite everyone knowing what needs to be done, no one is leading. So I guess I am. In 3 weeks, we will be landing in Laos. I will lead an intervention, around 10 people, victim impact statements, etc. I got my sister-in-law and my mother-in-law's ex-husband to talk to the officials to make sure the second farm plot, her own house, and the family business property cannot be sold, as village officials have to sign off on it. We will pay off the car loan and then sell the car. We cannot get back the plot of land without my mother-in-law's help, as she has the loan papers. These loan people are shysters, so unless she is convinced she has been scammed, that plot is gone. If she comes to her senses, we will use the car money and add our own funds to buy back the land. We stopped sending her money last month. We now pay her utility bills directly and pay the sister-in-law to buy groceries and put them in her fridge. The issue with the house she is trying to sell is that 2 of her daughters and quite often 1 or 2 grandkids also live there. Losing the house would not just affect my mother-in-law. If you've read this far, holy moly, thank you. I need help with this intervention. I've never even done one before and need some guidance. We plan on taking her smartphone and replacing it with one of those brick Nokias. I am expecting the intervention to last 5 to 6 hours. I'm also thinking of not letting her leave the house for days or even weeks until she gets it. If she doesn't wake up and realize what's happening and pawns the house she lives in, we will not help. I will not put up $130,000 for this bat-crap crazy lady and risk my own family's financial future. So this intervention, as serious as it may get, has to work, or we will be cutting my mother-in-law completely from our life. I guess what I'm asking is, for those who have successfully gotten family members to realize they were scammed, what did it? How were you successful? What was the process like for someone this deep in? /relevant comments. Commenter. Unfortunately, it usually takes them running out of money. They want to believe what they are being told is true so badly that convincing them otherwise is almost impossible. Ops response. Yes, sad as it is, if this intervention doesn't work, we're out, my wife agrees. She's even sold my wife's jewelry and replaced it with fakes. My wife feels constantly betrayed. Commenter 2. Bit of a cultural point, if your wife was raised in Lao culture, cutting off her mother would be basically impossible for her. It's one of the gravest sins in their culture, no matter what the parent does. I don't know her or your relationship, but I would be highly skeptical about her alleged agreement to wear out. She might have agreed to make you happy, avoid conflict, and move things along, but don't count on that happening so easily in the way an American would imagine. Ops response. Yeah, you're right. If it came down to it, the kids and grandkids have places to go. She doesn't. My wife would probably get a rental and pay someone to fill it with groceries. Commenter 3. It's very likely that even if you seem to get through to her, if you pay off anything, She'll go right back and sell it again to give more to the scammer. We see this story time and again here. The intervention or ultimatum seems to work, but very quickly, they go back to the scammer. You need to make sure to protect the house so her kids have a place to live. Ops response. Here's what's more messed up. The house was actually the family home of her ex-husband's parents. They divorced, but he agreed not to split the house or have his name on the deed because he said his kids and grandchildren were living there, and he was happy they could use it. My father-in-law is a cool dude, no one blames him for leaving. Update 1 month later. I never thought there'd be a part 2, because I didn't think there would be a point, but here goes. So, the first few days we arrive in Laos, my mother-in-law is nowhere to be seen. On day 3, we get one of her friends to ask her to meet up casually. She says she can't, she's in another city for a friend's funeral. We then figure she's hiding out in her country farmhouse an hour away. So now it's harder to get a lot of people in my planned intervention. Still, 6 people pack a van, her brothers, her daughters, including my wife, and me. We head out. We park, and one of her daughters approaches the farmhouse. She calls out to her mom, and her mom answers and tells us to go away. We surround the farmhouse, and everything is locked. We keep telling her that we just want to talk but will break down the doors if she doesn't unlock them. My mother-in-law refuses to answer. There are 2 doors inside, one is boarded up and impossible to get through, the other we use a crowbar to wedge open. We get through the lock, but this woman has also used coat hangers wrapped around the doorknob and attached to something to keep us out. So now we spend 10 minutes getting through that. We go through the house, and she's locked in the bedroom. So now we start to crowbar this door. As we do so, she's screaming that we're coming to kill her. Great. We get in, and she's an absolute mess, hair all over the place, just generally unkempt. Her older brother tries to talk to her, really calm. Like good guy, being nice, calm. He gets a punch from her. She's also a heavy-set woman, probably hurt a little, even if she's elderly. So I sit down, and I totally think I got this. Right? I've seen some screenshots of her phone that people have managed to take and was able to piece together the possible story. So I lay it out to her, a common enough romance scam. Scammer sends her something, it gets stuck at customs, she sends money, but it's still stuck. Then the story escalates to the scammer coming to visit her, then he's arrested and needs bail. Now it's her fault, and she needs to send money to bail him out. It's okay though, when he's out, he will repay whatever cost she incurred, and they'll fly away to another country and live happily ever after. I spend 3 hours on logic and reason, like why can't this guy call his embassy if he's stuck? She doesn't say a word but does look at me when I talk. Finally, at hour 5, as everyone is tired and giving up, I give her a hug, and she absolutely breaks. She starts crying, telling us she believes us. Everyone hugs each other, which does not happen in this country. People are crying. I'm like, yeah, I got this. She wants to spend another night at the farm though. I get that, she's lost someone. This lover that no longer exists and who never loved her. Needs to grieve. I ask for her phone, but she doesn't want to give it that night, she will give it tomorrow, but promises not to contact the scammers. Everyone leaves in good spirits. People seem happy, and dinner is had. The next day, my mother-in-law returns. I see her for maybe 5 minutes, everyone seems good. I decide to go the route of starting on the family recovery part, then a few days later go for the financial part. We are staying in a hotel, not with my mother-in-law. So the next day, a small family dinner is had, people are happy to have their mother back. 2 days later, a bigger family dinner, my mother-in-law seems happy, she agrees to talk about the financial part the next day. This whole time, I did not get that phone back from her, I was so focused on getting the family part back. Mistake. At the table sit myself, my mother-in-law, and her daughters. I start with a simple, you do still believe us and not this scammer Kevin, right? She replies with, I don't know what you're talking about. There was never a Kevin. So yep, she's still talking to the scammer. Now everyone is pissed. One of her daughters throws photocopied text conversations between her and the scammer while yelling at her mom. Oh yes, that Kevin. I can't believe this crap is happening. I try to keep everyone calm, but everyone is upset. What's crazy is that she seems to realize it's a scam but at the same time still believes the scammer. We ask for property titles, so she can't pawn or sell things and we can recover some things, but she only gives us partial actual documents or photocopies. Everyone is more pissed. She keeps denying having any loan papers, that the loan sharks kept them all. We don't believe it. She takes out her phone and starts to go through it to find one of her loan contacts. My wife decides this is it and lunges at her mother for the phone. My wife may be slim, but she's active at the gym, and of course, I naturally have to go at it too. So now 3 people are wrestling over the phone, which we do manage to take. My wife quickly goes over conversations from the scammer and loan sharks. My wife reads aloud the messages and confirms that it was the same scam story that we thought. At this point, everyone seems calm. My mother-in-law seems resigned to the fact that we now have her phone and are going through it. The rest of the family is bewildered at how obviously fake the lies and images that the scammer sent to her were though, but no one is yelling at her. The scammer is apparently an American, head of medicine at some Boston hospital. Of course. Why wouldn't a 40-something head of medicine want my elderly, nearly obese mother-in-law? At one point, my wife sees that my mother-in-law asked the scammer why he didn't go to the embassy for help. The scammer said that there was no embassy from his country where he was being held. We question my mother-in-law, but she's not really talking much, but finally says he's in Germany. Everyone is still calm though. I show my mother-in-law that there is a US embassy in Germany, a half-dozen consulates, dozens of offices. She replied that she's going to have to let Kevin know about these options that he didn't know about. She still believes this dude. I show her that the plane tickets they sent to show he had a jet-set life didn't exist. The images were so ridiculously fake that anyone could Google and see why. A non-stop ticket from Kazakhstan to Tennessee on UA 134. Everyone is still trying to convince her and remain calm. My wife scrolls to the loan sharks. Financially, we are mostly where we think we are, except she has managed to pawn the country farmhouse. We didn't think she could because her ex-husband is on the title, and he did not agree to that. People are furious, and I am tired of holding them back. They verbally lay it on her. We put down on paper what the debt is, and I don't think she flinched. We did when we totaled it, $70,000 for properties and items worth $350,000. We try for 2 hours to talk sense into her, but she's still fully committed to believing the scammers. There is just one property left not pawned, the one we're currently in, the one that only has her name, but is actually her ex-husband's childhood house. Everyone leaves frustrated. My wife and I tell her that she will never see us again. She asks for her phone back. Our reply wasn't very nice. My wife worries her mother is going to commit suicide. She doesn't. Next day, we meet up with my father-in-law, whom I always thought was a stand-up guy. Everyone thought he would be upset, but he was just disappointed. He goes on to explain that he removed his name from the house title in the capital because he didn't want his children or grandchildren to think he would try to kick them out in any way, as his ex-wife had repeatedly said it was something he would do. He was in tears and said he just wanted good things for his family. We agree to meet up again the next day to start a plan to get the police to arrest my mother-in-law for selling the farm property that my father-in-law did have his name on the title. My wife goes through the phone, and we get an even clearer picture. Turns out those loan shysters weren't actually nearly as bad as we thought, even the one who accepted a property as collateral knowing my father-in-law wasn't involved. There were two main loaners. Each loan to them started typical enough for the two properties, but then my mother-in-law started asking to see if they would take a loan for the house in the capital. Both said no, stated that they didn't want any of the properties, they just wanted the interest from the loans. They started questioning if she was being scammed, telling her to talk to her family. She kept telling them she was fine. They kept insisting she get her family involved. She said her family was why she didn't have anything and needed the loans. We called the loan people. They seem amicable and actually concerned for my mother-in-law. One only wanted the principal back, the other seemed willing to accept the principal and a month's interest instead of everything that's accrued. My wife asks me if I remember the jewelry gifts we got for our wedding. I replied that I didn't until she mentioned it now. Good, then you won't miss them. The next day, my wife plans to pay the loan to get her car back. There's already a buyer. The sale of the car and the jewelry is enough to cover not everything, but at least the two farm properties. I guess I shouldn't be annoyed at losing the jewelry, definitely annoyed at my mother-in-law though. Sure enough, midday, we get a text message from the scammer on my mother-in-law's phone, which we have, asking why he's getting texts from another number claiming to be my mother-in-law, and that it's the new number to call. We throw a few curveballs at the scammer, but yep, my mother-in-law had a backup phone, which explains why she wasn't wrestling us back for the phone, and is re-talking to the scammers. Yay! 2 hours after this, my sister-in-law puts her phone up to show me and my wife a live scene from the security cameras at the house. So, a lot of people in this country still believe in animism and spirits, etc. The conversation goes like this. Sister-in-law, she's opening up all the windows in the house. Wife, that nasty beach. Yep, she's got them all opened. She's got some incense now. She's lighting them outside the house and waving them. Oh, F her. I am so out of her life. What kind of mother does that? Me, what's going on? She just wished all the evil in the world to come to you and your wife. Oh, wonderful. Thank you for reading my rant. Well, we're here for another week. Let's see what crazy crap happens now. Hoping my mother-in-law does get arrested, I think it's likely, but maybe not before we leave. If you guys actually read this all the way through, and the next part is interesting, I'll put it up. /relevant comments. Commenter. The picture you paint is of a person who is not mentally well. She needs medical intervention. Ops response. That is the picture we get as well. I have suggested this to the family before. They declined it. Mental health treatment is non-existent here. The one place that would take her is for drug rehab, and it's pretty grim. Commenter 2. I would not bail her out of her loans with your money, she'll just do it again with the same scammer or a different one. I would move on with your life and stay out of hers. Ops response. The deed for the farm, which also has my father-in-law on it, will be transferred entirely to him. Apparently, this can be done without my mother-in-law's consent as long as the officials agree, and it looks like they will. The other farm, which is entirely in my mother-in-law's name, will hopefully be transferred to my wife eventually, as she is the one who actually paid for it. However, we need my mother-in-law to agree. It seems she won't agree anytime soon. Fortunately, we get to keep the title from the lender after the debt is paid, so she won't be able to pawn anything without it. As for the house in the capital, my father-in-law's childhood home, he and the entire family will be meeting with officials to have the title changed to be solely under his name. The plan is to have my mother-in-law arrested and put away until she regains her senses. I can't believe it's come to that, but I don't see any other way to bring her back to reason. Apparently, she's been throwing garbage all over the house, unplugging the laundry machine if someone is using it, and generally making the lives of her daughters who are still there miserable. The whole time, she's been screaming at whoever is around that soon she will have everything, and we will see she's right. I had previously told the daughters to go easy on their mom, but today I told them to go at it if they want. These are not defenseless women, they've just been holding back. It seems she's going to be put away one way or another. Second update 1.5 months later. This update isn't as exciting as the second update, where we were breaking down doors with crowbars and my mother-in-law was putting a hex on us, but that's probably a good thing. I pushed for getting her arrested, but apparently in Laos, it's not that simple. You have to go to the village elder, they have to get the village police involved, and then an actual arrest can be made. I'm not sure if it really is this complicated or if the family just didn't have the appetite for it. Of all the things she had pawned, we were interested in resolving 4 items that were pawned or suspected to be: my wife's car, 2 farm plots, and the house in the capital. We paid $3,000 to get the car back, which included the loan and interest. We then sold the car. My wife also sold the wedding jewelry we received many years ago. This, together with the proceeds from the car, was enough for us to pay back the loan and interest for the 2 farm plots. The papers were all signed in front of village officials. We had no idea where the deed to the house in the capital was. It turns out the loan people had the deed all along. My mother-in-law was so desperate for money that she offered to take $5,000 for a house worth $500,000 USD. The loaner declined but held onto the deed, which was eventually given back to us. The laws in Laos don't make any sense to me, and I'm not sure how we were able to do the things we did afterward. The first farm plot is 6 acres and co-owned by my mother-in-law and her ex-husband. My mother-in-law managed to pawn the property without her ex-husband knowing. So now we are going by the official judgment from their divorce. 1.5 acres will be given to my mother-in-law, but the title will be given to one of her daughters to hold. The second farm plot is 5 acres. It was 100% in my mother-in-law's name but was paid for by my wife years ago. The title will now be transferred to my wife. As for the house in the capital, it's 100% in my mother-in-law's name, even though it was my father-in-law's childhood home. This was because she had repeatedly accused him of, in the future, selling the house and leaving the grandkids with no place to go. Funny how it was actually the opposite. We're working on putting my father-in-law back on the title, while one of my wife's sisters holds onto the title. My wife used to give her mother a $500 to $600 monthly stipend but stopped a few months ago. She has told her sisters that she will still help pay for utilities and put groceries in her mother's fridge. My wife's niece and nephews also use the house. We have to pay utilities directly now, as the lights were just turned off recently because my mother-in-law didn't pay utilities for 4 months. However, we have cut off all contact with my mother-in-law. She won't see our son again either, even though she has numerous photos of him in her house. We knew she had promised the scammers to get him money in April, so we tried to get ahead of that. She traveled to Thailand to ask some relatives for money, but we told them ahead of time not to give her anything. In the end, she begged them for bags of rice to take home, which they gave. She also recently went to visit her son to ask him for money. He wasn't home, so she asked for $5 from her daughter-in-law's mother. She's going to several friends, asking for financial help, telling them that her kids abandoned her. So now we have to call those people and tell them that my mother-in-law has been scammed, but we still put food in the fridge. My mother-in-law still believes the scammers. She wants so desperately to believe she didn't give the scammers our final tally of $70,000. She really wants to believe her lover is real. She has nothing left to pawn now since we have all the documents. I can only hope that within 6 months the scammers will stop talking to her once they realize she has nothing left, and maybe she will come to her senses. It's been exhausting, but I'm glad we were able to get all 3 property titles back so at least my mother-in-law and the niece and nephews don't end up on the street. I was born in Laos too, but left when I wasn't even 1 year old, so I get the culture. We had planned a 5-week trip but spent almost 4 weeks cleaning up this scam mess. The whole point of the trip, prior to realizing my mother-in-law was being scammed, was to do a baby blessing ceremony, to be attended by hundreds of people. It's a very wholesome, positive event, something my wife had been looking forward to for a year. We didn't do it since there was so much bad energy. It wasn't until we flew to Bangkok for a few days that we felt like we were on vacation. My wife used to fly back to Laos once a year, sometimes twice. She's made it very clear she won't be going back for a while. Top/relevant comments. Commenter. Sadly, I can relate. With my mother, it was Keanu Reeves on Instagram. She gave him all her social security and banking information and hid it from us for months before we found out that the bank and the IRS were investigating her for money laundering. He got roughly $10,000 from a 72-year-old woman on disability. We control her finances now, but she's still in denial. Up until a couple of months ago, she was still talking to him, but now he's ghosted her since she can't give him any more money. It's so frustrating and enraging to have to deal with things like this. Commenter 2. Reminds me of that woman who fell in love with that AI Brad Pitt. It's just sad. Commenter 3. The best part of the story is the loan sharks turning out not to be loan sharks at all, but actually concerned for the mother-in-law.